Hi, I'm here to talk to you about genetically modified foods. Before me, Julian Wynn talked about how genetically modified foods will have a positive impact on societies and consumers as a whole. She said that GM foods can improve one's health because they are enhanced with more vitamins, minerals, and proteins, foods like golden rice and BT corn. Also that GM foods are a great response to the growing population, and that contrary to popular belief, they're actually very safe for humans. I want to talk about what Julie did not, how GM foods have a harmful effect on the environment, and talk about how nano foods are a better solution to a growing demand. Julie talked about how GM crops are safe for humans, but she did not talk about how they harm the environment, which is my first secondary claim. In a 15-year study done by the Union of Concerned Scientists, they listed the major reasons of GM crops. They listed the major effects that GM crops have on the surrounding environment. First being that the GM plant can itself become an overpowering weed and overrun the surrounding areas. When I say weed, I mean a plant that has undesirable effects. Second, the GM crop can act as what UCS calls a conduit, meaning new genes move to wild plants, and those plants can then become weeds. For instance, some plants are genetically altered to become herbicide resistant, allowing farmers to spray the fields with weed killer and not affect the plants. But pollen from the herbicide-resistant plant then pollinates the surrounding weeds, and then they become herbicide-resistant as well. According to Dr. Charles Benbrook, a chief scientist of the Organic Center, said, with glyphosate-resistant weeds, glyphosate being the main ingredient in weed killer, with glyphosate-resistant weeds now infesting millions of acres, farmers face rising costs coupled with sometimes major yield losses, and the environmental impact of weed management systems will surely rise. In an article written in the Environmental News Network, it said that the use of herbicides grew 383 million pounds from 1996 to 2008. 46% of this increase occurred from 2007 to 2008, showing just how out of hand the weeds can get due to the GM crops. Third, crops engineered to produce viruses could produce more viral strains, spreading into other wildlife. Also, the effect on the GM crop will have on surrounding ecosystems in the long run is too unpredictable. They could very well harm the centers of crop diversity. Although GM crops are a good alternative, it is old and there is a new and better one. For my secondary claim, I'll be discussing nanofoods and how they do exactly what GM foods do and then more. A food is categorized as a nanofood when nanoparticles and nanotechnology techniques are used during cultivation, production, and packaging, or processing packaging. Nanotechnology reconstructs and takes apart nature at an atomic level. Atomic engineering could allow DNA of seeds to be rearranged to alter color, growth, pH levels, amounts of nutrients, and yield. And all that can be monitored from a laptop that reads the nanosensors. In a recent report in the U.S. Project on Emerging Nanotechnologies, it states, thanks to nanotechnology, tomorrow's food will be designed by shaping molecules and atoms. Food will be wrapped in smart safety packaging that can detect spoilage or harmful contaminants. Future products will enhance and adjust their color, flavor, or nutrient content to accommodate each consumer's taste or health needs. And in agriculture, nanotechnology promises to reduce pesticide use, improve plant and animal breeding, and create new bioindustrial products. With nanotechnologies, we can make smart food that actually interact with the eater. The company Kraft is actually developing a clear, tasteless drink with hundreds of nanocapsules inside it. When you microwave this drink, you release the flavor in the capsules. These capsules can also detect when someone is allergic to a certain ingredient and block it. Foods will also be packed in a smart packaging. This packaging can release certain ingredients to those it identifies as needing certain dietary needs. For instance, giving extra use of calcium to those with osteoporosis. This packaging also has small microscopic chips that act as barcodes, emitting a signal that allows food to be tracked from factory to the supermarket. Genetically modified foods are good currently, but are harmful to the surrounding environment and will soon be outdone by technology. Nanofoods will be the successor and lead the way to a bright new future. Thank you.
All right, the subject's identified and you label the secondary claims, but basically you're going to present two counterclaims to respond to the issue. So you largely ignore the evidence and reasoning that the advocate's presenting, and I think that that's a little bit problematic because you're putting all your eggs in the basket of your responses. You've got the counterclaim that says that this kind of stuff has negative consequences. You talk about the crossbreeding of the weeds, for instance, and I thought that was an interesting strategy to go with, and it is a potential problem. It seems to me. The argument right at the very end of that first point that talked about the amount of increase in herbicides that were being used, you seem to be attributing it to the expanded use of genetically modified foods, and I think that that's kind of a big inferential leap to be making there. It seems much more likely that it's more because of the herbicides being more cost convenient or more readily available in a variety of places. People just expand their usage of it as it becomes more widely available and people are more knowledgeable about how to utilize it. I think the inference that you're making goes beyond what your proof is on that particular point. All right, but even if that point is valid, we don't know how big an impact that's going to be in the long run, and there might be other issues that the advocate presented that you're not addressing on that point. The second point talks about this alternative, and I'm not quite sure that they are mutually exclusive. In fact, it sounds sometimes like the nanofoods that you're talking about are simply variations on the genetically modified foods that the advocate's talking about. So if they are the same thing, I'm not sure that your point contradicts it. But even if they are completely different things, why do they have to be exclusive? The examples that you give us are interesting, but they don't necessarily show that they fall in the same categories of foods that the advocate's talking about. I mean, I seem to remember the advocate talking about wheat and rice and all those kinds of things, and you're talking about a flavored drink that is activated by by processing, and I'm not sure that they compete for the same kinds of nutrients or the same consumers. So that would need to be explained a little bit more. It sounds like you've done a good job developing that as a subject matter, but applying it to the advocate's argument I don't think is done quite as clearly. All right, thank you.